welcome to Satsang. Today's subject is the key to awakened love. And it was inspired by the latest few clients that I've had. One woman has been following the path, spiritual path, meditation, and everything else, and she was doing rather well for quite a few years, really. And then, lately, she reported that her husband had an affair and fell in love with somebody else, and she went to pieces. Literally. She lost a lot of weight, and the poor thing is suffering quite a lot. And then it occurred to me that the key is what we need to talk about. The key to awakened love. Another case too, which drew me into quite a bit of attention, was a very attractive young woman, about 30. Beautiful. Very sexual looking, beautiful body, beautiful face. And but then, every time she goes on a date for the first time, or maybe the second date, she would go to if she's in a restaurant, she would go to the bathroom and throw up. And then she asked me, what is it that is happening, Burt? Happens to me very often. Whenever I go out on a new date or get to know a man, and men are very attractive to her, she's absolutely very appealing. And I said, well, you know what that is? Fear of intimacy. But it gets so bad that she actually throws up. She gets so panicked. And this happens often. She's had quite a few relationships that didn't pan out. The sex is really great in the beginning, but that's not all. So there are many other cases, and I don't need to go through them, but they're very similar. And what is it in common that they have? Believe it or not, self-hate. Okay? A guilt so deep that you just don't think you're good enough. You don't think that you can do with your life what you want. There's something wrong with me. My research, according to hypnotherapy of 30 years' time, has proven to me that people who are very religious, who have been told in their youth that they're born in sin, contributes greatly to that fact of self-hate. Another thing that contributes to self-hate is also when children are, before they're 6 years old or so, and they're told by their parents, be a good boy, be a good girl. You see, this is so common, to tell your children, be a good girl, be a good boy. Because you see, the moment somebody tells you, be good, try to be good, something in you rebels. So if you rebel, you're not going to like yourself, because you think you're being bad. But if you try to be good, it's not natural, because you're trying to be not who you are, but you have to be good, whatever that means. You see? What does it mean to be good? Aren't you good enough? So let's go and explore it today. See, there's a secret word, and I want you to listen to this. Of course, we heard it many times. That's not the important thing, but I want you to really hear it and explore it. Because I am sure, positive, that the people who have listened to this word and applied it, they awakened spiritually. That's how powerful it is. And you know what that word is?
Love.
Oh, it is love, yes, yes, definitely.
Is it witness?
No. It is self-compassion. Okay, please remember that word, self-compassion. Unless you have self-compassion, you cannot love another. You see? Self-compassion means that nothing is good or bad, right or wrong. If it happens to you, it is what I need to look at and I need to grow from. See? The beautiful realization that I've had was one time when I realized that I'm a human being playing the human role of Burt. And that meant also to me that I exist. Anybody that exists, and we all exist, right? The very fact that you exist means you are beautiful, just as you are. Why? Because existence never makes a mistake. But you see, we can take it for granted. As long as you exist, you're part of existence. And existence is perfect love. And like we discussed many times before, you take the body, for example. The body is made up of 100 trillion cells, and each cell is as organized as any modern city. Fully functioning, fully intelligent, fully knowing what to do. You see? So what I'm trying to say is that there is so much in a being, you see? And not to love you is to make you go into a horizontal form of life, past and future, instead of vertical, which is now. Okay? In other words, you don't flow with what is. So the moment you don't like yourself, you actually create an impediment, and you cannot function. So what I did today was grabbed a few emails, and I'd like to, you read one or two of them, and we'll explore them and see how they are not loving who they are. Because if they did, the problems that are presented in those emails won't be there. And I'd like you to look in that perspective. Did you know that if you are what did I just say?
Compassionate?
Yeah, self-compassion. Yeah.
Right.
If you are self-compassionate, there's nothing else you need. Nothing. It is total. It is absolutely complete. Because everything that happens to you, you will learn from it as a lesson, and you never see it as something wrong or I did something wrong. You see? Because one thing we learn from existence, an all existing thing, and you can call it God, source, being, is that it's perfect unconditional love. And when we learn to move with that love, there is nothing that we don't learn from. And people flower immediately. When I guided people through several sessions in learning to love themselves, see, they flowered. Now when I say love yourself, what do I mean by that? Please tell me.
It means to see your being and the way you are playing yourself out, the way a loving parent would see their child, and know the beauty of that, even though it might fall in the mud or scratch itself, but to have that unconditional caring for your being regardless of circumstances.
Beautiful. That is beautiful definition. Yeah. And it's not based on being good. It is not based on being in a particular way. See? So this is what self-compassion is. See, we can be self-compassionate towards our children. We can be compassionate even towards another. But when it comes to ourselves, we're incapable of doing it. And yet, paradoxically, until you can do it to you, you cannot flower. You can love many people, but until you have that love in you moving, despite whatever thoughts and emotions run through you, unless you have that compassion, you cannot expand. You see, you cannot go deeper. Okay, now I'd like to get going with the questions. Right? We've got quite a few. So Jen, if you just read the first one.
I'd like to tell you that for the most part, I'm able to self-analyze and even go to my childhood traumas and see why I feel like a victim, etc., etc. What I want to know is how to transcend the state of subconscious level and be able to create the abundance in my life. I'm 41 and plenty cerebral, yet I got low-paying jobs and I'm ashamed to tell people that I work in a factory for a living. My 9-year-old son doesn't know. I got no friends and no truly intimate connections as a result of self-struggle. I cannot understand what it is that I want out of myself. Sometimes I fantasize about being a successful business owner. My very recent dream is a cool juice bar owner. I think about it at night and envision how it should be. But when I actually try to do even research, not to mention physically do it, it intimidates me. I feel like running. I close the web pages with the actual information because it feels weird. Deep down inside my soul, I know I'm a very capable person, but my subconscious mind is sabotaging me right from the point of conception of an idea. I feel that I must do something, but I don't know what and how to begin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well read. So do we see clearly here that if he had self-compassion, it would cover all the questions he has raised? I'd like your feedback now, please. Okay? Please share. Share whatever comes to you. Because here is someone that is trying to solve the problems that he thinks he has about him, but they're all because he doesn't know he doesn't have that quality, that self-compassion to just be himself. Because if he had that, would he have written that letter?
I see love for his son in there somewhere. You know, for his son to be proud of him. He doesn't want to tell him he works in a factory.
He doesn't want to tell him. So therefore he's ashamed, isn't he?
Yes.
Okay, let's go into it some more.
The very fact that he's caught in a loop, he's caught himself in a loop, and that is, he feels bad for what he's not doing, and he never stops to love himself and have deep caring and hold himself where he is. And unless he goes to that, he's going to just keep making circles in the sky. He can't get out of there the way he's going, because he's not taking who he is now in this moment with him. He feels like a failure, and he drags that along like a wagon.
Right, right. So now we have taken, thank you, we have taken self-compassion a little deeper, understanding it here. Okay? Is there something you'd like to share?
So was that
from what you
a matter
wrote?
of him recognizing that he's not being, number one, real with his son?
That's right.
That'd be a great start.
There's that guilt. That he's not, even he adores his son, and he wants his son to be proud of him, but he is not proud of himself. So that cannot work. You see? So he lives in that fear all the time, in that separation. Okay? Because he is not self-compassionate.
So then what might that look like?
Hmm?
What might that look like for him to change?
You tell me. Can we share that? What would that look like for him to change?
I think that he could let himself break down with that, but hold himself.
Beautiful, break down with that. You see, self-compassion. Self-compassion is not how to do anything, but to see what is being done, and it's okay. It is not wrong. See, he wrote me because he wants an answer to a problem. He created the problem, but there is no problem if he were to look at the problem and say, this is the way I've created it. You see what I mean? The moment we face something, that is self-compassion. You see? The most beautiful thing that Buddha gave us was to be kind. To be kind to each other. In other words, Buddhism, you know, like to have that kindness, but to be kind to yourself is almost a misnomer nowadays. I mean, people are not kind to themselves. So they want to do things for others because they feel that guilt, and they want to feel good. So they don't want to do things for others. I'm going to be good, I'm going to give money, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. Because somehow or other they feel inadequate, and it's never enough. You see? Until you do it to you, it won't come natural. It won't be natural. It will always be something you are doing. But we are not doers. We are beers. You know, there's such a word. You see? And when you love yourself, when you are kind to yourself, it's automatic. You don't do anything. It's automatic. You see? You feel impelled because you cannot love another unless you love yourself. Okay, so now the man who wrote this email, of course, I told him that these are going to be read. Okay? I won't mention names. So, is there anything that you'd like to tell him?
Well, I like him to maybe see that how beautiful he is creating his life, you know, in the negative sense.
In the negative sense. That's right. He can do that too, you see. He can see, my goodness, I've created this stumbling block. And if I am capable of creating the stumbling block, I can always create... what was the opposite of stumbling block?
Doorway, an opening.
The doorway.
The juice bar.
A juice bar.
A juice bar, right. Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? He wants a juice bar. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not in the juice bar out there. It's in him tapping his own juice and the beauty of that.
That's right.
And letting that flow. And then whatever he moves towards, he will be in it with it. He won't be trying to prove something that can never be proved.
Yes. Something that can never be proved. That's right. Yeah.
And I'm just wondering, what is it that needs to happen? Is it a realization? Is it an action? Like you mentioned.
Neither. He has to look at what is. Always remember that. Yeah, we always want to act. We always want to do. But you see, the life is so simple. It is presenting us moment to moment that whatever is because of the way we have structured it to be. Okay, in our consciousness. We cannot blame anything, but you even cannot blame ourselves. Because we don't make ourselves bad because we are bad. We make ourselves bad because we are unaware. You see what I mean? But there's only what is, moment to moment to moment. Okay? And by looking at what is, it is presenting us with what is needed. Moment to moment. Okay, who would like to read the next one? Yeah. Now remember that the word is self-compassion, okay?
Do you want me to read the whole thing or what you underline?
It's what I have. Oh, yeah. This,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi Burt, I watched your video entitled "Believe It or Not, There's Only One Will," and was quite amazed how totally irrelevant it was to me at that moment. I was acting out exactly what you described and recognized that it is a recurring pattern in my life. I start to feel good, and then I create some kind of problem, physical or emotional pain, conflict, or just so much self-doubt that I convince myself that whatever is actually good in my life is in fact not real or doomed to failure. I am aware of the weight of all those thoughts of unworthiness. I can see that the problems are self-created. But this insight seems to give me no power to do things differently or to feel good. It seems unlikely that I will fall into my heart anytime soon, so I can't rely on having the certainty that the experiencer, or the ego, is an illusion. My question is, how can I stop being the puppet of my ego without this realization? How can I free myself to just enjoy my life when I really believe in the ego and its lies?
Okay. It's very simple, really. They're all simple. But what happens is, and I hope that all of you have seen our last satsang, we always use the mind instead of the heart. The heart, always remember, it is only what is. Even as you read it, feel as if you are in his shoes or in her shoes. And as you do that, see what your heart tells you at that moment.
He is still trying to figure it out.
That's right, that is what we do.
And he just like, stop that. And just fall into yourself as you are now. And that's the place. That's the place. Feel how that is now. Not escape it, not build out from it, not run from the ego, not I can't. Just be with what is and where you are. And what is needed will arise. Just hold yourself.
That's another thing. You said it beautifully there. See, when we stay with what is, automatically, that's what we need to do will arise out of itself. It becomes like an answer. It becomes automatic. See, when we start to listen. And that's when we talk about awakening, that's what we mean. You see? Because, all the teachings say that 95% of the people are sleeping. Only about 5% are awakened. But then we make awakening as something bombastic, as something very... It isn't. It is being you. You see? Because awakening is beginning to see what is and to go with what is. But the moment the mind makes a judgment, good or bad, you see? It compares it and analyzes it, and then, what shall I do? And it becomes more complex, and it keeps on going, and maybe I don't deserve better, or maybe I'm not good enough. And do you see the muck of all this? See the garbage of all this? It has nothing to do with anything that is... We are conceptualizing, we're putting more and more. You see, negativity feeds on negativity. Okay? Like, for example, a person says, I'm so afraid, Burt, how can I overcome it? And then somebody would say to him, let's say, because I wouldn't say that, I'm going to say, he would ask somebody, he says, I've got this fear, how can I overcome this fear? And somebody would say, well, you have to be careful, because if you have fear, what happens is that it's going to make it worse. And then, so here I am. I am afraid. There's this fear, and then I'm afraid because I'm afraid.
Right.
Got it? And it's a vicious circle. Now that's how the ego works. That's how the mind works. And then you're afraid for being afraid, just like feeling guilty, and then you feel guilty for feeling guilty. And then you try not to feel guilty, and then you feel guilty for not feeling guilty. You see what I mean? This is what the mind does. To stop all that, you've got to take a deep breath and just be with what is. So this means that you've got to clear your head and say, okay, what is now? what what is, and then you look at it. See, and that is the point where also we develop the witnesser. Most people cannot witness at all. Okay, witnessing means to see without a head, to see without thinking, to see just as something is. Okay, I've talked a lot now and I forgot exactly what the whole thing was. Can you read us the major point that he wanted to know?
Well, he wants to know how he can stop being the puppet of his ego without having the realization. That's it.
He doesn't need to stop being the puppet of his ego. We're all have strings attached. It's not about cutting all the strings.
That's right.
It's about seeing the beauty of his struggle and loving who he is in it. And the strings will drop by themselves. If he can't get there from his box, he has to drop into who he is and where he is right now.
Right now.
And
The way he
forget the
is.
escape
That's what
plan.
is.
There's something that makes him afraid to stop and be where he is. Anything to get away from there.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah. Maybe I should use this. Okay, we have now a perfect example. Okay, so we're going deep, and this is what I would like you to do with each letter. Okay, to see all the different ways how simple it is to love who you are. And remember, just like we were discussing, he said, you don't really love yourself. You are just love. So there is no yourself, really.
And it's the love that is allowing it to be seen.
Yes.
To see this fellow here.
Yes.
To see all that
So
stuff.
he needs to be still, take a deep breath, and just be with what is. The way you've been saying it is, I have no words for this guy, the way he's able to go deep into it and see it so clearly, you see. Oh, and so this is it. And always go back to simplicity. Who was it? Thoreau, who said, simplify, simplify, simplify. He said the whole thing. So that is the whole point is simply be with what is. The moment you think about it, you've already lost it. Now we see why we have wars, why we have masochism and sadism and all kinds of problems, so much hate and so much separation because of something so simple. See, negativity feeds on itself and it hungers for more negativity to the point where it becomes so familiar we cannot do without it. You see? So this is the whole point. Now, compassion. Because a lot of stuff is going on to meet the demand of the moment. Self-compassion is that simplicity of meeting the moment as it is. You see?
And even that is love. I mean, it's just love right there.
Yeah, love is everything that is going on. You know, for some reason or other, this word to me is so powerful, and yet every time I say, what is it?
Self-compassion.
Self-compassion.
When I start remembering.
Yeah, it's not something that I don't remember, but something is happening to kind of break through. Now, I'm getting a kick out of it. What I'm saying here is that if you ever find anything happening that limits you in the moment, never see it as wrong. Never see it as it shouldn't be. But also to see it as it is, because it would lead you to something deeper. You see, maybe the word self-compassion is not enough in itself, because it is self-love. But self-love is not enough in itself. it is really that knowing of yeah.
The beauty of being in the moment, with the moment, is that the you you're struggling with is not there. And so just love is there. There is really no one to love. There's just love there.
It's just love.
And in that, it's like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an innocence. See, so what we call love is not someone loving or being loved. You see? In the same way, when the realization came to me as far, because it was a conflicted relationship that woke me up to my true nature. And then I realized that there was nothing to fix. And it's not a matter of loving myself or loving her or her loving me. It's just to be love. Because love in itself, the moment we surrender, the moment we allow the moment to be, love is always there. But you see, the thing about love is that we have to be ripe enough to see the nothingness of love. Because love is nothingness. And that nothingness means everythingness. See the duality? Like there's nothing is outside of love. Nothing is outside of love. So the moment you allow yourself to be, no matter how you think is, that very moment of allowing is itself love. The moment you make it wrong, the moment you wish you didn't say it, the moment you think or you have to figure it out, you've lost that love. But it doesn't mean you've lost it. What you did is you block its simplicity from shining. You see? Yeah. Did we answer him or her?
He wants to stop being the puppet of the ego, I think we
Yeah.
did, yeah.
Stop being the puppet of the ego.
Yeah.
You see? If you try to stop being a puppet of the ego, what happens?
Got you.
That's when you become more of a puppet.
Even love your strings.
Hmm?
Even they can be beautiful.
Even love your strings as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. To love everything. That is so simple. When it came to me, I thought, oh, wow. You know, how could it escape me? Love. It's all love. Unconditional love. To love everything. You see? Because the mind is always making something wrong or right, or this shouldn't be, or that should be different. You know, and working as a hypnotherapist has taught me so much, because I used to get all different cultures and beliefs and lifestyles, you see, that were, you know, so different. And it was all love. Like I had a young man one time, and they threw him out of the house because he was gay. He told his parents, you know, that he is gay, and they didn't want him. They said, we disown you. And he was heartbroken, ready to commit suicide. He called me and he came to see me. This was quite a few years ago. My heart went out to him. There was nothing wrong with him. There's a beautiful soul. It's not a choice he made. He is gay. Gay is become his sexual expression in this lifetime. And then I had him lie down, and we went to a past life where he was a woman. He can't help being who he is. You see what I mean? So when you begin to accept what is just as it is, you find there's no wrong. All you need to do is move with what is, and then the perfection, that love itself, the balancer, the enhancer, takes over. And it does everything through you, everything through you. But think little of yourself in the moment, or think that you've done something wrong, and that very moment of thinking you've done something wrong will take over. You see? And then it starts the nightmares and the negativity, and there's something wrong with me, and I'm not good enough, and I am evil, and I am bad. You know, and my parents told me I was not good because I didn't obey them, or my father wanted me to be a doctor, and all I wanted to be was a garbage collector. I'm just playing around with it. But the point is that you cannot tell someone what to do with their life. All you can do is help them to be who they are. You see, to move with that energy. But, yeah.
That fear of knowing nothing and sinking into the nothingness of the moment, it seems to be more terrifying for people than creating a life of misery in a way. That letting go of the ideas that we're shaping the rights and wrongs and that will get us somewhere.
That's right.
That's the...
They
don't want to let go of that.
That's right. They're so familiar with it, with the negative aspect, with the egoic part, or that you don't want to break free from it. But if like one woman said to me, she came to see, this is years ago too, and she said, I got so many worries and so many this and so many that, and all the time she's complaining and this is wrong and this is wrong. And then I said to her, I didn't mean it, but it's like a trick. I played on her and I said, look, what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to get rid of all your fears and all your doubts and all your worries are going to be gone. I said, are you ready for it? And instead of saying, hooray, she said, no. What will I be without?
That's right.
You see? And so something made me to say that, because I cannot get rid of something somebody else has. Okay? And so that was another lesson of how we hang on. You see, we hang on even something is killing us because it's familiar, because it's conditioned. Who would like to read the next one?
I can read it.
Okay.
Hey Burt, I listened to Eckhart Tolle talking about thoughts. He said that all one has to be concerned about with thought is to be the awareness that watches the thought. My question is it okay to have bad and moral thoughts if one simply stay as the observer, just watching them?
Oh, that is something. Do you see what he's asking here?
He snuck around behind the watch.
Yeah. So is it okay for me to think a lot of dirty thoughts and get away with it? So do you see what the mind does? It's just, it doesn't want to get rid of that which is familiar because we think it's doing us some good. Is it okay to think immoral thoughts and just be observer? Oh my goodness. You see what I'm seeing here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We we want so much our ego to be in control, to get our own way, but we just don't want to be pure. We don't want to be love, because what love comes out to is to be who you are in a moment. You see? We know what that means, to be who you are.
That's what I'm curious about. Do you have to come to a place of knowing who you are?
Not really. Not really.
Or maybe
because-
more so knowing who you are not.
Because you are not anything. You see, knowing who you are is a misnomer. There is no you, really, okay? Nothing is personal. This is something I learned when I was doing hypnotherapy. People come in, tall, short, foreign, domestic. Excuse me. But all their problems and all their fears, they're all the same. Just different flavors, but it's all the same thing. So I said, there's nothing personal, Now they don't want their fear to be discussed, to be explored. They don't want anybody else to know about it because they think it's personal. But there is no personal. There is no you that, how did you phrase it?
Yeah.
Hmm?
That was so long ago.
She was saying
And
that you have to know yourself.
You have to know yourself, right?
I mean, just in the conversation tonight, there's so many times there's that mention about you and your ego and this. So that's what I'm curious to know.
That becomes, well, you see, that's a mental thing. There's no such thing as ego or mental. We create something, and then we make it real, and then we try how to figure it out and how to get rid of it. But there's nothing to get rid of because we created it. You see what I mean? You see, if you sit right here and just take a deep breath and be, just be who you are, just be. Okay? No inhibitions, no fears, no how I should talk, what will people think of me, all that is garbage. That's something that we have been conditioned to believe because we think we are a particular structure. We think we are a particular human, but we are a being playing the human role. You are being. You see, and being has no form, has no something to overcome or enhance or improve or do anything with. All it needs is fruition, is expression. You see, all these letters that you read, sometimes you might have to think about how do I answer this? My goodness, it sounds so complex. It's not complex at all. You just become the complexity of the writer. You see what I mean? You're caught in that complexity, but there is no so you have to stand apart, read it, and see how the mind is creating all this. All it is spelled self-sabotage, because there is no self-love. You see? So that is all that is happening, is very, very simple. So what we're doing, the reason I brought these emails is to start looking at from different angles of how we're trying to manufacture another self that we can live with. You see what I mean? And there is nothing to live with. You see, the you that you think you are doesn't exist in the way you think you are. See, when somebody says how many levels of awakening there are, well, the first level of awakening is really learning to love you. Learning, self-compassion. Okay, self-compassion is the first level. The second level is when you realize there is no self. So even the self-compassion, remove the self. There's only compassion. Okay? In the same way, when you fall in love with someone during conflicted relationship, I realized I don't love someone or someone loves me. See, what happens is that the love that I am is expresses. And so I am in love with whoever I am with. You see? So ultimately, there is not even a special love, except, of course, if you have a lot in common with a human being and the frequency and the vibrations really connect, the chemistry is perfect, then it can make it a good relationship. But the loving part is one love. It's just one love. You see? And when there is no conflict in that one love, now what would create conflict between one love, between two people? What would create the conflict?
The fact that they are basically separated. They are not in oneness.
Okay, so, and what is that? What creates that separation?
Our duality.
And, okay.
The need for love.
The need for love. The mind's need for love. Yeah. See, duality itself doesn't exist. Okay? Everything has an opposite. Because if there is no opposite, it cannot be seen or experienced. Got it? For example, we can call, well, okay, I am being playing the human role of Burt. But what you see is Burt, the body. The being you don't see. But you cannot separate the being from the body. The two are one. You see, in the beginning, just like I said in the last Satsang, in the beginning there was nothing, just void. So we can say there is just pure awareness, pure being. call it God. Okay? That was perfection itself. Then there was the Big Bang and creation came into being. So that means that the subject became object. You with me so far? The subject became object. Now we are moving at such an accelerated rate in consciousness that we're actually moving into the fifth dimension, which means that now we're going to realize, or we have the capacity to realize, that the object is still subject, even though it appears as an object. So the body itself is really spirit in manifestation. Okay? Everything, if you follow the rules, what makes the blood circulate? The cells so intelligent, everything so harmonious? Love. When that love breaks down,
Get sick.
then you get sick. Then you have cancer, you have this, you have that, whatever happens. Okay? So your body, you know, when you go out of harmony. But what is harmony? We go back to love. Love always keeps you in harmony, everything working perfectly. You see? So therefore we begin to see that duality itself is a misnomer. There is, in order for something to manifest, there has to be an opposite. If I say there is an up, there's got to be a down. If I say there is front, there's got to be a back. Okay? In order for it to manifest. Black, white, male, female. Okay? But the two are really one. And as we move into the fifth dimension, we're becoming more androgynous. We're becoming more sexless. Because the male, as the male awakens to the female energy, because the female energy in the fifth dimension is much more pronounced than it's ever been. Okay? So as the male becomes more spiritual, he develops more tenderness, more sweetness, more love, which are the female qualities, the yin energy. You see? So in other words, as we start moving in, we're becoming more and more, you know, like one. So everything is joining together. So separation becomes less and less and less and less. Until everything enmeshes into one thing. And then, from that one thing happens is that what we call the objective, which to us, sensually felt, seen, touched, becomes less and less solid. It becomes more, the vibrations as they get higher, it becomes more fluid, because we are fluid. So the objective becomes subjective, you see? But when we are living in subjective reality, the people who are still very objective don't see the subjective. Just like when somebody dies and they drop in front of us and we say, oh, they died. But they are saying, hey, I'm not dead, I'm here. Okay? If you've had out-of-body experience, you know what I'm talking about. Because nobody dies. You see? But when we see a person die, we actually literally believe. But what will happen is that as you become more subjective, you actually begin to see that nothing ever changes except the form. But you're always you. You're always you. Why? You know there's always you. You are always eternally so, beginningless and endless. You know why? Now here's something that's going to blow your mind. You know why is all there is? Because there is no you. Do you understand that? Right.
You always were,
You always were.
and there's nowhere to go.
Yeah, there's nowhere to go. And you are that. You've always been that. You see? You take on different forms, you take on different expressions, you take on different karmic events, whatever you might call them, and then you eventually make the complete circle and you find, hey, nothing's happening, I just climbed the ladder and I'm on top, but the ladder has always been here. You see? And then you see it all clear, that whatever you did was simply to purify you until all what we call ego or mind has dropped away. Now, when I say mind, I'm not talking about universal mind, okay? I'm talking about the conditioned mind, the individualized mind. Okay, can we read the next one? Anybody wants to read it?
I don't have my glasses.
I can read it.
Okay, you want to read it? Okay.
I've come to realize that I, as the ego, cannot exist simultaneously with the world when the world disappears. The reason why the thoughts still feels very real is because I believe in the false self. Just as the worlds can't disappear when false self is believed, the worlds can exist when there is no false self. This search is so exhausting. I wish it could end.
Yes.
No, listen to the last sentence breaks me up. This search is so exhausting.
See, that's what I said last time to you.
Do
It
you-
is
but-
exhausting. I think I like to be done.
Do you see what is being said though? The search is exhausting.
It is exhausting.
It is.
It'll be endless.
Right. And so when you say this search is exhausting, what are you doing?
You make
see-
it even more exhausting.
Exactly. What is exhausting is you thinking it's exhausting. Because the search and world are both the same. You see? What we call conditioned mind and search are both the same. The mind is always searching, searching, searching. And it was Lester Levinson who broke, an enlightened American, who broke it down into three things. And I repeat it. He said the mind is always seeking approval. It's always seeking safety. And it's always seeking control. Approval is, I want people to love me, but I don't want to be the first. I want them to love me first, and then I'm ready to love them. You see? So of course we're always working backwards. That's how the mind works. The seeking always works that way. Instead of being, it seeks being. And so it works from the back. And the same with insecurity. Okay, you want to feel safe. You're afraid to venture into something that is kind of, oh, what if it doesn't work out? What if it is threatening? Okay, but do you know that one moment of insecurity, one moment of wanting security, is insecurity itself? Okay, and another one is control. What is control? Wanting your own way, wanting to be right. You see? And wanting to be right is the cause of all arguments and all wars and all conflicts in the world. Yeah. Now, those three are the sum total of everything that the mind searches for all the time. And when you understand that those three exist in perfection in the being, you see? And when you begin to understand that, and you stop the seeking. Now, can you stop seeking?
You can't stop seeking, but you can see and find what that part of you was seeking, and because the one that was seeking was not really you. When you find you already have what you're seeking, so why would you look for it?
Right. That's so beautiful. Did you know that the one who is seeking is not you? That is so beautiful. The you who is seeking is the one who has been hurt, the one who thinks is limited, the one who thinks he lacks something, the one who thinks there's something wrong, the one who thinks that this is difficult, the one who thinks that when they listen to a talk like this they get all mixed up and thinking it's all convoluted, when in fact it is simplicity itself. See, that's what the mind does. The mind is very complex. You can take the smallest, simplest thing and you can leave it to the mind to make it complex.
That's the easiest thing ever.
Yeah. There's nothing easier than being. There's nothing simpler than being. You don't even need to breathe because it's breathing you. Did you know that? Yeah. So, oh yeah, the search, I wish it could end. The very wish itself, of course, is what. Okay, shall we? It's very clear? We're clear with that? Okay. Yeah, you
I
want
was
to
just
read?
wondering, Burt, how would a person who has never felt or experienced love know what it is to be loved?
Right. You see, this is it. Let me put it in a broader sense. Everybody wants love, but they don't know what love is. Let's assume you've been a Negro 150 years ago, where slavery was accepted, especially in the South. Okay? So you're born into slavery. Your mother gave you birth in slavery. And you don't know what it is to be free. But do you know that in your heart you dream of being of freedom? Do you know that you always would wish to be free? Because it is your nature. But that need to be free, that yearning to be free, is the very being itself.
But isn't that like what we were saying before about searching, like the mind always searching? Is that not kind of like a natural?
It is a very natural thing, but remember the difference between seeking and yearning. Okay? There is a difference between the two. Seeking is done by the mind because it wants to obtain, it wants to control, it wants to manipulate, it wants to have, you see? And it doesn't want to lose anything because it's afraid of loss. Fear and loss are one and the same thing. Yearning
Is in the heart.
Yearning is in the heart. Yearning is you want to go home. You know that this earth is not the earth, but the world that we live in is not real. It's an illusion.
So even that
So
is just what a human being does.
Yeah.
It just yearns to come back
Yes.
home.
And if that yearning becomes a seeking, you see, then it becomes stepping on his own toes. You see, because he thinks it's something to achieve. But if that yearning is allowed to be what it is, then it becomes a love. So that's how love is experienced even when you don't know what it is. Because yearning is a form of love, yeah.
And it isn't the kind of yearning that turns into emotional drama.
Right.
That is the other thing that the mind loves to mess with.
Mm-hmm.
Yearning is not poor me, or it is just that drive that knows there is a fulfillment waiting. It's almost like faith. It knows it's there without any reason.
And that's the heart that knows.
And that's the heart.
Yes.
Animals yearn. People seek.
Yeah.
Or what about
Yeah.
children? Children yearn.
Tiny children, just born, they don't seek anything. They're just love.
No, they're just love, yes.
So as a child,
Yeah,
you
it's
yearn
natural.
as an
It's
adult.
yearning. It's yearning for the mother's breast. It's yearning to be fed, to be taken care of. Yes, but that's a natural child's need for love. Yeah, but it's not a seeking of love really. Now, if it's deprived of that love, then the child can become a seeker, and they start crying and they start stamping their feet and they become very disturbed. If they're abandoned and they're not loved, you see what I mean? So, yeah.
So isn't this whole conversation that we've had tonight all about becoming a child, going back to being a
Yes.
child?
Yes.
'Cause
That's
children-
beautiful, yes. It's going back to innocence.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's to a tiny child, to a newborn, because they get messed up.
Well,
pretty
actually,
soon.
the ego starts developing at 3 years of age, it's been said.
Are you sure?
Well, that's
Not earlier.
what everybody seems to agree, because they relate to their name. That's when they start psychologically saying, "This is mine, don't touch it." They start owning, possessing at 3 years of age. But prior to that, even when they start walking, they're still not aware that they have a body yet. You know, they're not totally into it, yeah.
I'm wondering about that statement, because although we become open and innocent, and there is something that has been learned in the journey of our knowing that we don't know, there's something else, there seems to be something else added, a consciousness, because the child's openness is not conscious of his openness.
Right.
But in the end, that famous saying, we come to where we began, but we know the place for the first time.
Yes.
And that's what that imaginary journey has done.
That's right. That's right. And that's why the child loses its innocence, only to regain it through realization, through
Because it
enlightenment.
needs that. That's
It goes back to its own innocence, but this time
yes,
it sees it for
different.
the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody wants to read this? See, I picked up quite a few. Hmm? You want to read it?
No, I
Oh.
don't have my glasses.
Okay. Yeah.
I watched your most recent video, How to Trust Your Heart, and I found myself weeping because I'm so afraid to trust my heart. I don't really know how to put this in words, but I feel as if human society has gotten to the point where people who follow their hearts and aren't greedy or materialistic are openly mocked and condemned. I find I am absolutely terrified of what other people think of me, to the point where I feel paralyzed with fear and self-doubt. I live in Colorado and find myself smoking more and more marijuana just to numb myself from feeling anything, because I've been told I'm too sensitive, intense, and emotional, and that being these things is wrong and bad. Why is it that if we're all one and made of, in, and by love, people can be so cruel to others and literally torture them with their words and actions? If everyone is seeking love, then why do they purposefully ostracize or exclude others?
You see that clearly, right? Yeah. See, she's so caught in not loving herself that if she feels the world is against her.
And she's needing to love to gain it,
That's right.
and is just seeing the opposite,
Yes. Yes.
or is creating the opposite.
Yes. She need do nothing but learn to accept herself and to start to love who she is. And then you'll find that people are not mocking you anymore, because everything changes as we change, as we learn to accept. Did you know that there's only you? Because there is no you. I know it sounds funny, but if you realize that, wow, you don't need anything else. So when you think people are doing something to you, that's when you don't love yourself. Because there are no others to do anything. There's only you. Wherever you are, there's only you. You are everyone and everything. And yet, it sounds so, if somebody said this to me, many years ago, I wouldn't have understood it. But it does come. And when it comes, you say, how else can it be? You have your world, and you see nothing else but your world. Wherever you are, you only see you. You can see that, can't you? All you see is you. How you think, how you feel. What others are doing to you is how you think others are doing to you. You see? And of course you might say, but it seems like that they're doing it to me. Yes, because when you begin to think that there is that separation, you begin to create that particular auric field in which you draw to yourself that which you think people are doing to you. You see? So you create that world. And we're very strong creators. But this statement, I'd like you to use this as homework after our session. Okay? There is only you, because there is no you. See, there is no you as a personal person, but you is all you'll ever know. Is there a time when you didn't know you were? Was there a time when you remember you were not? No, it's not possible. You know, when I learned that in hypnotherapy, I would hypnotize people and they go back, take them back. And you can take them back forever. And there's never a time when they were born. They remember everything. The most interesting thing is then when they were between lives, and then they were drawn towards the body, and then they were born, you know, and you experience that with them. And it's such a thing, and it's amazing what it does. There's a woman, incidentally, in case you're interested. She's not enlightened, and she knows it. But for 45 years, she's been doing this hypnotherapy, and she's interested in lost knowledge, and her name is Dorothy Cannon. And I respect her, I love her. She's traveling all over the world. She's in her late 80s. She's physically healthy, you know, and she's written 17 books, something like this. Yeah. She's an incredible lady. Anyway, she's learned so much by taking people back to untold time. And there's never a time when you were not. You know. Okay. Do you feel like, shall we quit here? Or do you want to read one more?
Let's do one more.
One more?
Hello, Burt. I've just discovered your videos today, and I've never heard anybody talk about love and fear the way you have before. My question is, my boyfriend broke up with me due to my insecurities. I don't love myself, and watching your videos, I believe I needed his love to feel complete. But at the same time, I wasn't respecting him out of fear of being used, even though he gave me no reason to believe he was using me. I do want him back, but I know it is impossible, because I do believe he has moved on, and because I have to learn to love myself in order to love anybody else. All I want is to apologize for the way things ended, and for him to hear me out on this apology. I would like to call him, but I'm so afraid he will not answer and ignore my call. Everyone advises me against it, but I strongly feel in my heart it is something I must do. Should I?
Should she? Really look at it.
It depends how she feels. That's our human drama we like to have here. I don't know. Just so regular.
See, I said to her, do write him. But if you want an answer, you're still hanging on.
There is no answer.
So I said to her, write him how you feel, okay? So say it totally how you feel, exactly like she wrote me. He said, but don't expect an answer. And of course, that's she doesn't want that. She's still hanging on. What I want him to answer. I want.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But her process of putting that all down will be very useful, because
Yes.
she does have some very good insight and awareness.
Yes,
Very good.
that's the whole point. Yes,
Yeah.
she has. But she cannot come to that point of
There's still a
allowing.
little-
Yes. Right.
it to be as it is.
Right.
And she fears how it is.
Yes. Yes.
Sounds
And
like
even though we become aware of how it is, yet still we are not compassionate towards ourselves. Why?
We have to get out of that programming we are in. We are programmed to feel this way, to do this way. So we've gotta
Logically,
let go
that's
of
what it
that-
sounds like,
of
but
that,
do we
of those
really have to
implants.
get through what?
As a psychologist, I would say deprogramming goes on forever.
Yeah, that's right.
But we are not our program. And
That's
in
right.
that,
See, the mind is always trying to find ways of, you have to get rid of this, and we have to get this and this. It gives you work to do. I used to think the same way, because I studied psychology too. I used to think that too, because it's all mind, you see. Psychology is all mind. It doesn't go beyond the mind. And so it gives you things to do, but there's nothing to do. You are.
Yeah, but we are not the program, but we act on the program.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that needs to be let
We-
go of. It's a very human
Right.
thing.
And,
It's just
right. And
the
how
way it is.
how do we let go of the program?
Yeah, that's the thing.
we go to a
Get
different
your
level.
bars around.
We go to a different
And
level.
how do we do that?
we simply accept everything just as it is.
That's
And
right.
stop trying to climb out of the box or break
That's
the
right.
corners out.
That's
or-
right. You get rid
Yeah,
of the
better
program by
therapist.
not trying to get rid of it. Just see it as it is a program.
And laugh a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't make a big thing out of it. You see, it is all very simple. Either something is real or it isn't real. But if for a moment you make it real, you're stuck. You're finished, you see? And now you're going to have sleepless nights and you're going to think, oh, I'm still repeating it and it's still stuck. Yes, because you believe you are that program.
Go
Yeah,
on,
it
go
keeps
on.
on going over and over
As
again.
soon as you have deep enough self-compassion, the program gone.
Right.
Becomes irrelevant. Because no matter what program, what circumstance, with self-love, those become immaterial. They become just the circumstances and dance of life. Why
Right.
should they bother you if you are loving yourself and know you are being fed from that place?
And you're being
Then it's
fed
an
from that
adventure.
place. Okay. So to wind it up, you understand now more about what self-compassion is. See it very clearly. It's the simplest thing. It's all you need to have that awakened aspect to life. Self-compassion is not something you do. It is something that you allow. You see? Because moment to moment your mind is always twisting you, always acting from your conditioning, is always feeding you thoughts, to change things, to resist. You see, it is this resistance that drives people crazy. Some people have had nervous breakdowns or ended up in loony bins because of this resistance. Resist the resistance and it keeps on escalating. It's a vicious circle. You see? Now, self-compassion is to stop for a moment and see what your mind is producing, what you're doing, and to let it all go. And how do you let it go? By seeing that there's nothing to let go. It's all mind. We always think there's something there to get rid of. Oh, it's been bothering me, therefore I've got to get rid of it. And you're making it into something. There's nothing there. Think a thought right now. Think a thought. Think of a banana. No, really, think of a banana. Okay? Are you seeing the banana in your mind? Okay, now, stop. Where is it?
Gone.
The moment you look at it, it's gone. Your mind can create something to the point where you can actually taste it or feel it. That's how creative the mind is. But the moment you look at it, you find it was nothing but a thought. Now, that very looking into a thought and seeing it as a thought, that's self.
Awareness.
Self-awareness, self-compassion, self-love, self-whatever.
There's a lot of that is stored in emotion,
Yes,
though.
yes.
So what happens to that?
Nothing. It is stored.
Does it not need to
What makes it
release
stored?
or
What
express?
makes these things that we've had since childhood stored inside us?
We store it
Holding
because
it.
we hold on to it.
We hold on to them.
And that's where it let go of it.
Right.
Can
And
you
how
do
do
it?
you
Can
let
we
go?
let go? That's the thing.
That's the whole point. And the whole point is, yes, you can, but if you for a moment don't think you can, then you're telling us you can and you won't. But the moment it becomes so simple, because there's nothing, you know, when I start moments and look at myself and what I've been through, and believe me, I've been through so much in my childhood. I wouldn't want to go through it because it would be quite a story. But you know, when I look at what went on in my childhood, and I just look at it now, I see this, nothing ever happened. And nothing ever, really. No, I mean it. I mean it, nothing ever happened, I'm just here.
Yeah.
See, I don't need to let go of it. I don't need to let go of it because there's nothing to let go of.
It is as powerful as we make it.
Yeah. So that's what the Course in Miracles is so beautiful about forgiveness. Okay? Forgiveness is seeing that there's nothing to forgive. It's all made up. All of it made up.
Oh, so what you put upon it as what you thought was happening is not true.
No.
Right.
Nothing is true except being. That's self-compassion. Self-compassion is the simplest thing there is. Okay? You're innocent. You're here. You're always here. That's self-compassion. And if something happens to hurt you, then you take a deep breath and you stop and you look at it. Taking a deep breath is very important, incidentally. Okay? Because when you take a deep breath,
You cannot think.
that's right. And at that moment, it brings you totally present.
So, and what is happening to you is what you think is happening to you.
That's right.
So it's,
And whatever you think is happening to you, if you believe it for a moment, then it is.
yeah.
But if you see it for what it is, then you're free. And when self-compassion is seeing something as it actually is. Nothing. Nothing ever happens.
And you don't.
You know, we think things happen. Nothing happens. I know this is very radical, you see, when you listen to this. But when the realization hits you of who you are, really are, and I'm not saying that you are not realized or not this or that, please don't get me wrong, but when you really see who you are, you find there's nothing to do, there's nothing happening. You're just living.
So if we get a speeding ticket, is it happening or is it not happening?
No, it's not happening. You just take the ticket and you
So
pay
why
it.
the heck are we going to pay for it?
You don't have to pay for it
You
either.
either pay for it or you don't.
Yeah, if you don't pay for it and they follow you, then it's fine. Well, that's what you created because you made it real. The point is, if you get a ticket, you get a ticket and you pay it.
As human beings, we're subject to still chopping the wood and carrying the water. That's our human heritage.
Yeah,
But that doesn't mean that we need to be bound in there. It's a joy to do the adventure of life. We're not trying to get out of it. We're not trying to get out of life or to make life the fast lane or the spiritual lane, because then we'll be out of life and get out of this muck. That's all mind.
it's all mind. See, you said if you get a ticket, is that real? No, you created that. Either because you speeded or because you break lights and you didn't fix them or whatever. Okay? The point is that you created that. and so you pay it. Now, if you stubbornly say, oh no, it's not real, therefore I won't pay it, fine, this is what happens. But in your heart, you know that by not paying it, there are repercussions, there are results that's happening to you. You created those too. You see what I mean? So you can be free of everything. Do you know one key thing? People ask about abundance, they talk about abundance and how to have money regularly coming to you. And one of the things that I found is that when bills show up at your door, be happy to pay them. And say, I pay you, I bless you, and you're going to multiply and come back to me. One of the key ingredients of abundance is that. Always pay your bills, not only in time, but gladly, with gratitude that you can do it. And when you start doing that, you see, things will start coming to you. Always be grateful, always, always. Nothing is happening! Just being, playing the role. You see, and when you take it that way, you are free. Namaste.
Namaste.
I told my mom about that gratitude thing. If she wouldn't have been in Europe, she would have ripped my head